to girls is around storytelling. Before today's chat, I just want to acknowledge what a big week it was for She's the First and thank our community for stepping up. A few days ago was Giving Tuesday now, and we saw our highest donation day since quarantine. Together, we raised over $9,000 for our COVID-19 response fund, which will specifically help provide vital food and supplies to girls and their families. You can learn more about these efforts at she'sthefirst.org/COVID. And stay tuned for more shout outs at the end of this episode. Now let's bring on Patience and Esther.
Hi.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being here today. I know it's your Friday night that you're spending with us. And now the reason we're connected is because both of you did a project for She's the First earlier this year called Future Me. And we're going to talk more about that later. My colleagues, Christen and Henna, they got to meet you in January when they went to Uganda for this project. But I wasn't there. And when they came back to the office, they just raved about these two dynamic women who were capturing the whole experience on camera. So I feel very fortunate that we finally do get to say hello. Now, the two of you are friends, so I thought it would be even better if you introduced each other and really just brag about your friend and tell everyone who's listening why each of you is so amazing.
Well, thank you. I'll go first and introduce the amazing person Patience is. She's a filmmaker, she's a producer, and she also produces one of the largest music festivals in Africa right now. So she's, as you see, big smile. She's a very interesting person and an amazing person to work with. She cares about social issues and tells the stories through film, right? She makes movies. She's a big deal. And yeah, welcome, Patience.
Thank you. Thanks for organizing this, Tammy. And I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce my amazing friend and work partner, Esther. I met Esther in 2013. We were both still young at a music festival called Baimba. And I remember I was curating a photography workshop and Esther had come to volunteer, but she wasn't part of the participants. And I remember when I was giving out cameras, she asked for a camera, but I didn't know she was already on the journey of photography. And then she started taking these amazing photos. And when I met her again after a couple of years, she had grown so much. She had started doing documentary photography. I mean, I felt like that was really amazing. She's done a lot of amazing things. And if you want to know more about her, check out her Instagram. She has all her beautiful work displayed out there. And she's also worked for amazing, amazing organizations that she refused me to say. She's like, tell them to follow me on Instagram. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you are both so impressive. And I know you had been following each other for a while, and then you didn't get to actually work together until this Future Me project for She's the First. So why don't we start off by talking about that? So to fill our audience in, if you didn't know, at the beginning of 2020, before we even ever imagined that this global pandemic would happen, we dreamed up a campaign called Future Me for March, for Women's History Month. And we kicked it off on March 8th, which was International Women's Day. And we wanted to celebrate the ambition of girls. Girls from She's the First's partner, Arlington Academy of Hope in Uganda, dressed up as the woman that they could become. And we've got some examples of these photos that we'll cue up on the screen. So the girls dressed up as a doctor, a businesswoman, an accountant, an NGO worker, a radio host. there's a photo you'll see of Sarah, the radio host, who could totally have my job, and I would love to see her be hosting a Facebook Live one day. All of these girls, they met their role models in the process, women from Uganda who held these professions. Esther, I want to start off by asking you, as the woman who took these photos, can you talk about what the vision for this project was, and why was it something that you wanted to do with She's the First?
Thank you. Well, so the idea with the campaign was really interesting because it's one thing for a young girl to dream about being something. We all had dreams when we were growing up. But many of us didn't have an opportunity to actually dress like or meet people who were already doing the things we wanted to do. Like, I wanted to be a journalist from way back, you know. I was a young girl and I knew I wanted to do something in journalism, but I hadn't met any female journalist at that age, you know. So I think when I read the brief, and it sounded really interesting, and also because it wasn't the typical way of, you know, like showing. I mean, it's one thing you could easily go out there and photograph these girls at school and just write, yeah, she would like to be a tour guide, she would like to be a radio host, but in the end they don't actually stay motivated, or because they're not given a taste of what they're dreaming of, you know. So it was really interesting when I read the brief, and I was like, okay, I would really like to be a part of this. And Christen called, and we had a long chat and brainstormed the ideas and the props, and so when we went out to the school and met the girls, it was something, you know. We took some of them to the town to actually get access to a radio station, or to get access to a bank. And they were, you know, the people were looking at us like, what is going on here? And the girls were really enjoying it, and they had an amazing time. And I think that's really important because they won't forget that. I mean, even if they grow up and end up doing something else, but they know that there are people out there doing it, and they can actually dream bigger. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, as they say, once you see it, you can be it. And on that note, my question for you, Patience, you were on site during this time filming the girls, and you got to know them well through the process. But even more importantly, they got to know you, and they got to see a woman holding a camera behind the lens, to hear about that, to even know it's a career that a woman could work on a movie set, which you have. And I'm wondering if there was a moment that you experienced with the girls that represents the importance of having role models that they can look up to in their own community and in their own country.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I would say, the girls at that school, at Arlington School, they had so much energy, you know, and it was really nice that they're also asking me if it was very possible for a woman to hold a camera, because they thought women are always acting and in front of the camera. And I remember some of the girls, I was asking why they wanted to be the things they told me they wanted to be, because it was mainly, they wanted to be teachers, they wanted to be lawyers, they wanted to be all these things their parents are telling them, and the things that they think are the only options they have. But I mean, after interacting with them, we built relationships. And by the end, I made a small video. And I just remember by the end, there's this one girl who asked me for the camera to film me. And to me, that was really amazing. But also, she was just like, I want to be like you, teacher Patience. You know, they used to call us teachers. But it was just like, they've never seen a woman hold a camera. They thought women are always in front of the camera, but not behind the camera. So some of them were really inspired. And by the time I left, and when I asked them on the last day, what do you want to be? They're like, we want to be like you, teacher Patience. We want to be journalists. We want to be tourists. I want to be a model. I'm just like, you can choose to be whatever you want to be, as long as your parents are okay with it, you can go ahead and study for the things that you want to study. And I also gave them a little bit background about myself, because I grew up wanting to make films, but I didn't have the access, and my parents didn't allow me to. I studied, I passed my grades, and after I reached the age where I got exposure and opportunities for me to do film, I took on that journey. And I mean, I don't see myself elsewhere than what I'm doing today. And it was also really nice to share that with these girls, because it's just like, I've been like you, but I reached a point and I wanted to do the thing that makes me happy, which was film, and it was through camera. And I believe if we don't tell our stories, no one else will. So that's why I wake up every morning and catch that camera, carry it up, and go out there and shoot stories, because I believe the world needs to see our stories. And we as girls, we need to tell more, because we grow up with this thing of, you have to carry yourself like this, you have to walk in a certain way. But if you find the thing that you really love and expose yourself to do it, I feel like it's really beautiful.
Yeah,
thank you.
It makes you come alive.
Yeah.
Patience, we actually have that clip you mentioned of the girls you met, and I think everyone's Friday would be better for watching this. So let's take a look.
I have self-esteem. I am responsible. I am brave.
I mean what I say.
I do what I want.
We are the present of the future. We are the leaders of tomorrow.
I love that so much. I'm going to be replaying it after this chat. Unfortunately, COVID did shorten the duration of our Future Me campaign, as we had to pivot to crisis communication in mid-March. But I know that the images and the stories that you captured will resurface again, and we're going to continue to follow those girls from Arlington Academy of Hope on their journeys. So more to come there. But why don't we switch gears now and talk about our lives in the present during COVID. You each have jobs that require you to be out there in the field on assignment, traveling and interacting with people. And now, like me and everyone else, you're stuck at home. So for starters, would you each describe what your daily life is like now in quarantine, and what content are you able to create under these circumstances?
Esther, do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
Well, you can start.
To be honest, the COVID period it's been really hard, and mainly at the beginning, because there's nothing that has happened like this before for me personally, because most of the jobs were working with NGOs and different people and commissioned work, and everything was kind of set up for, like, I have a thing of setting up my calendar till the year ends, just to know where I'm busy, where I can focus on creative and all those things. And one thing that was really hard for me was adjusting to staying inside, because I'm more of a field girl. I'm more of the girl who wants to go out there, capture stories, interact with people. But one thing that has been very helpful during this time, on the brighter side, it's given me time to think and sit down and reflect. And every time, and I thought I was going to have real big issues with depression, but actually it's really helped me. The COVID times have really helped me with self-care. I've gotten a system in place, and every time I feel like the house is too much for me, I remember I usually call some of my friends who are filmmakers. I'm like, guys, let's walk to town. Me and my business partner walked to town, and this is how we got this beautiful photo. But it was also beautiful to see the town, the entire Kampala, quiet and beautiful, because the things you never see. It's always busy. This is one of the busiest streets in the city, but I mean, it was really beautiful. There's also that quietness of just thinking. It's not busy all the time. But generally, I feel like on the side of making money, it's been really, really tough. It's been taking one day at a time. But in terms of self-growth, I just learned to stop panicking. I trained myself to stop panicking. And I'm like, let me use this opportunity to realign my life, rearrange what I want. So when post-COVID comes, I'm kind of ready for what the world has to bring for me. But I'm also keeping myself sane, knowing that there's going to be a better tomorrow. So I'm holding on to that. I'm really, really holding on to that. And having creative projects we're working on. I've been taking part in online workshops. That has been very helpful, because even though you're far away from people, you kind of feel connected virtually. Like, I also love this, I mean, it's just in different times, but we feel together even if we're distant. So I just hope this ends soon.
That's very wise of you. How about you, Esther? You've been posting some photos on your Instagram.
Yeah, well, so when the country first went in lockdown, I couldn't really create. I was going through that, brain fog phase where I just couldn't think. I couldn't feel inspired to go and photograph, and that went on for, I think, like the first week and a half. I didn't even want to edit anything on my laptop or look at work. But I lived through it. I think it's also important in these times to listen to how we're feeling. If you don't feel motivated, don't force yourself to do something really. So anyway, I lived through that phase, and then I went and visited family. Actually, no, my kid brothers came and visited me, and that was really nice. So I started photographing life like that. I visited my mom, and it kind of made me start to look at my family and document them as I spent some time bonding with them. Because the thing with being freelancers is that you're never seated in one place. You're always moving from this assignment to the next one, and I hadn't visited my mom and spent the night at her place in a very long time. So with this, I managed to go and, play cards with my brother, watch movies together, chat, watch them exercise or exercise with them, So I think it's been nice in that sense. But also to just be quiet, just be quiet and sit and listen to yourself and reevaluate the things you've been doing and what you would like to work on better,
Right. Yeah, that is a silver lining.
Pushing. Yeah.
So on that note of what you will work on in the future, as we get kind of deeper into the heart of this conversation, there's a lot that we don't know still about COVID, including how it will spread through other parts of the world. We think about when the US and the countries that have been more infected start opening up and people start traveling again. It's a very scary thought that COVID could spread more throughout the global South. But even best case scenario, if it didn't, already so much damage has been done. And we've talked about this a lot at She's the First in our Girls Can't Wait report, how families who were already poor are under more financial strain as the global economy is tanking. Girls who are stuck at home because schools were closed are facing increased risks of abuse and forced sex. The Malala Fund has predicted, based on the Ebola crisis, that 10 million secondary school aged girls may never return to school after this. So there's a storyline there that girls are the victims of a global pandemic. But on the other side, we've also seen how girls are resources to their communities and heroes on the front line. And past episodes of Front Row Fridays have really illustrated that, as we've had guests talk about the ways girls have translated health information into local languages. They're distributing health masks and supplies throughout their communities. So you've got kind of two different types of narratives here. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are as storytellers. As far as women and girls go, how are you thinking about the stories that will come out of the COVID crisis? What stories need to be told, and how should they be told? Esther, would you like to begin?
Yeah, I think also not just about this COVID situation. Generally, I think girl stories need to be told by girls first of all. You know, there's been a lot of stories about girls, about menstrual hygiene, about sexual abuse, and these are photographed and by men, and you're like, okay, come on, how do you expect this young girl to actually feel safe with you when she's talking about something that happened to her, you know, something very sensitive. So I think we need also, as visual storytellers ourselves, to actually start looking out more for stories that are affecting girls and women. I mean, we right now it's also a bit tricky because not many people are able to move around and get in, in in touch with other people. Also because you want to protect them from this. I mean, you want to protect yourself, but also protect them. So I feel like that when we're talking about the current COVID time and the stories that are being told, more about the journalists who are out there and reporting daily and documenting the challenges and also the amazing works that women and girls worldwide are doing to contribute to, you know, beating this pandemic. I think we need to think more and bring those stories out because what affects a girl in this moment is not what is affecting a boy. I'm thinking about like girls in need out there who were depending on support from the different, you know, organizations or, you know, or peer groups, for example, and that is not happening anymore because of the current situation. So where are they getting the support they need? Where are they getting the counseling that they need? You know, some girls who are going to school and being safe at school when home is not safe for them, you know, because of child abuse or sexual harassment at home. What are they going through right now? And it's quite hard to get to all of those stories right now because, you know, of all the restrictions with movement. But I feel like post-corona, there's going to be a lot of these stories, and sadly, they're going to be stories of the impact. You know, like what bad stuff has remained behind after COVID. What happened to these girls when they were in this quarantine time? You know, so I think if some of us can't contribute to the narrative right now, I think post-COVID it should be something that we look out for.
Exactly.
Patience, when you turn on the news or read newspapers near you, are you seeing any stories about how girls and women are impacted by COVID?
You know what? I'm going to answer that just shortly. But one thing that I really noticed, or something that came to me actually when the lockdown was passed, I just wonder deep down inside myself is like, what are women and children who are stuck with their abusers going to do in this time? How are they going to survive? How are they going to cope up in this time? And Esther's mentioned some of the things I was thinking about. But in the papers, I haven't seen a lot of news about this. It's not being written down anywhere. If a case comes out, it's never the issue. It's a subtopic that's just like a pass by. But as Esther was actually writing, I was like, it's up to us as artists to actually see how we can contribute to changing the narrative post-COVID. But also the people that are mainly going through these things may not have access to even record or do video diaries, and that just came to me as just like, would it be one of the things where they would write down this just came as Esther was speaking, where you just write down the story? Because I feel like I personally haven't been through any abuse or anything, but I've learned the power of journaling during this COVID time, where I put down my feelings. I put down what really, like, I just put my mind out, you know, and I have the access to record it. I feel like there's just something I let out. But if there's a way we could have like a let out point, so when we come post-COVID, we're not just taking stories, but also just understanding there's a background to this, there's that thing you connect to that took you through that moment. So when we come as artists, as creatives, we contribute to that and build up on the confidence of these people. I mean, it's a heavy topic, and I see time is going, but yeah, no, that's how I feel, you know, and it really breaks my heart that it's not an issue that's being talked about at all. You know, it doesn't feel like it's out there. Everything is focusing about the lockdown needs to end, but how is it ending? How are these people going to come out of these days they've been locked down with their abusers, their violent? But oh my God, I'm just like, it's such a heavy topic.
Yeah, and we could speak for hours on this.
I know.
I know we only have a few minutes left, so I'd say my last question is, like, imagine if, say, the Guardian sent, or Nat Geo, you know, they sent you on assignment to tell these stories of girls after COVID. What ethics are your guiding principles? So what ethics would be guiding you on doing that kind of assignment?
I think for me, I would say following your emotions, because most of the times that problem with media and visuals out there is the person creating them taking themselves out of the situation. But if you're in the situation with these people, you don't just document and leave. I'll give one quick example of an assignment I did with Save the Children some time ago, and I met this girl she's been through a lot, and she's you know, she was raped, and she went through a lot of terrible things, and she stayed with me. You know, I was like, how can I personally help and contribute to her life? You know, it's like, there's many stories out there that you'll tell and move on, but if a story is important and you feel a connection with it, I feel like the least you can do is actually be present when you're telling it. COVID, the stories that we need to tell, we need to be able to think about all of the time that we've gone through, you know, being indoors, being quiet, and the security some of us have. Think about that, and many people out there don't have it. And when you go to tell the stories of people who have had a lot of terrible experiences through this time, you need to actually be there with them, you know, like, and tell stories from a point of view that will bring the audience who's receiving the work to actually feel and be there with these people, because sometimes all you need is someone to actually feel something, and then they'll act.
Yeah. No, that's very, very heartfelt, and I think a good reminder for everyone. Patience, would you like to close us out with your answer to that question? What is the ethics that guides you forward?
I mean, to me, just to top up on Esther, it's the personal connection and also just putting yourself in these people's shoes, because what happened most times, and it was one of the challenges facing working with different entities, was coming and taking the stories and just going. But I just feel like one of the biggest ethics is staying in touch with these people and not just only taking their stories, but also feeling and going through with them in the next steps after all the situations they've been through. To me, I feel like personal connection is the greatest of them all. Just like Esther said, I don't have much to add up on that, because I also seem to talk for such a long time. So no, but that's how I really feel generally, because it's really tough times, and it's not the time where you just come and go. People experience things. We've all experienced them on different levels, but it's about being with them for real. Like,
Well, I'll encourage all of our viewers to follow you on Instagram, because I think this, the way you've answered this question, it might also be easier for people just to look at your work and see those guiding principles of yours. They really do shine through your work and your portfolio. So your Instagram handles are there on the screen. And I believe that you've been getting some questions from our viewers. So after this chat, you know, perhaps you can answer them on the Facebook thread. But since we're almost out of time, I will say goodbye. Everyone hang on, because I have a few more shout outs to do. But first, Patience and Esther, thank you so much for joining us today. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for hosting. Thank you for hosting us.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
And to our audience, thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. I've just got a few more special shout outs before we say goodbye. Because as you know, we call this the Front Row Fridays because not only are we giving you a front row to hear from amazing women like Patience and Esther, but the front row is also the name of our monthly giving community, which is having such an impact on She's the First right now. We have 240 members who are part of this group, and I invite you to consider joining them. You can check out she'sthefirst.org/front row for more information. And this is the time where we give some special shout outs to longstanding members and new members of the front row. So first, a very happy giving anniversary to Ami Bavishi, who has been my friend since high school, so really appreciate her support. And a warm welcome to our newest monthly donors this week, Michaela, Kira, Olivia, Emily, Megan, Fiona, Michael, Anna, Brianne, Kathleen, Andrea, Natalie, Michelle, Lisa, Suzanne, Yana, and Lindsay. That's a lot of names. So we are just overjoyed. And every time we see a new monthly donation come in, the whole staff, does a cheer. So thank you for that. And remember to come back here next week, next Friday at noon, to see what Christen Brandt has in store for you. Thank you for showing up for girls today and always. Bye.